You showed up today, did everything you were supposed to do. Nobody asked if you were okay because nothing seemed wrong. And that's exactly the problem. Somewhere in the last few months, you stopped feeling things the way you used to. Not in some dramatic, obvious way, more like someone slowly turned down the volume on your internal life until everything became background noise. You still react when you need to, still laugh at jokes, still handle your responsibilities, but it's mechanical now, rehearsed, like you're performing the motions of someone who's present while the actual you is somewhere else entirely. Here's what makes it so disorienting. You're not failing. Your work's fine. Your relationships haven't imploded. There's no catastrophe forcing you to confront this, which means there's nothing obvious to fix, nothing you can point to and say, that's the problem. Just this growing sense that you've been operating on some kind of secondary system for longer than you want to admit. You thought it was just stress, or maybe you needed a vacation, or better sleep, so you tried those things. And when they didn't work, you figured you weren't trying hard enough, that maybe you just needed to push through until things felt normal again. But nothing feels normal, and pushing through is exactly what got you here. You've been treating the wrong condition this entire time, and it's cost you something you didn't even realize you were losing. You've been solving the wrong problem. Every productivity hack, every self-care Sunday, every attempt to get back on track has been aimed at exhaustion, at workload, at stress levels, and none of it worked because you're not dealing with burnout. You're dealing with something that mimics it so well that even you can't tell the difference. Am I right? Burnout screams. This whispers. Burnout breaks you down until you can't function. This lets you function perfectly while hollowing you out from the inside. You keep going, keep delivering, keep maintaining the life you built, except somewhere along the way, you stopped inhabiting it. The terrifying part, you might not even realize how long you've been running on autopilot. Days blur together, weeks disappear. You look back at entire months and can barely remember feeling anything distinct. Not joy, not frustration, not anticipation, just the faint static of a mind that learned to operate without you fully present in it. Your mind didn't collapse. It made a calculated trade. Shut down emotional range, keep performance intact. No drama, no breakdown, no red flags anyone could point to. Just you, moving through your days like someone going through the motions of a life that used to feel like yours. And because it doesn't scream for attention, you've been walking around thinking, maybe this is just how things are now. But you've known something was off for longer than you want to admit. What you didn't have was the language for it. That changes right now. The mistake isn't that you're tired, it's that you think tired is all this is. Exhaustion has a feel to it. Your body's heavy, your mind's sluggish. You need rest. And when you get it, something shifts. You recover. That's burnout in its truest form. You hit a limit, your system forces you to stop, and with enough time away, you start to feel human again. But what you're dealing with now doesn't respond to rest. You've had weekends where you did nothing, mornings where you slept in, entire days off where you barely left the house, and you still woke up the next week feeling exactly the same. Not refreshed, not recharged, just back to that familiar flatness where nothing quite registers. That's because this isn't your body running out of fuel. It's your mind selectively shutting down its emotional system to protect you from overload. And there's a massive difference between the two that almost no one explains clearly. When you're burned out, you feel too much. Everything's overwhelming. Every task feels impossible. Every interaction drains you. You're hypersensitive to stress, and your nervous system is screaming for relief. When you're in shutdown, you feel too little. Nothing's overwhelming because nothing's really reaching you anymore. Tasks get done, but they don't mean anything. Interactions happen, but you're only half there. Your nervous system isn't screaming. It's gone quiet, disturbingly quiet. And because shutdown lets you keep functioning, you don't recognize it as the problem. You look at your life and think, I'm managing fine. But managing and living are not the same thing. One keeps the machine running. The other actually requires you to be present inside it. Most people spend months, sometimes years, trying to fix their energy levels when the real issue is that they've stopped emotionally inhabiting their own existence. They're still here. They're just not home. Your mind didn't break. It did exactly what it was designed to do when you refused to stop. Think of it like a circuit breaker. When the electrical load gets too high, the breaker doesn't fail. It trips. It cuts power to protect the system from burning out. Your mind works the same way. When the emotional demand exceeds what you can safely process, it doesn't collapse. It reduces sensitivity, dims the signal, turns down the parts of you that feel things deeply because feeling things deeply became unsustainable. And here's the thing, it happens so gradually that you don't notice the shift. One day, you realize you haven't been excited about anything in weeks. You can't remember the last time something genuinely moved you. Small frustrations that used to bother you just don't anymore. Not because you've become more patient, but because the part of you that registers frustration has been dialed down. You're still capable of emotions, technically. You can still smile, still get annoyed, still feel something when the moment demands it. But it's muted, like you're experiencing everything through a layer of insulation. Present enough to respond appropriately, but distant enough that nothing fully lands. This is what shutdown actually looks like. Not a dramatic breakdown, not some visible crisis, just a slow fade into a version of yourself that can operate efficiently, but can't feel fully. You become functional but hollow, competent but disconnected. You're doing life instead of living it. And the most unsettling part, you start to accept it. You tell yourself this is maturity. That maybe feeling less is just what happens when you grow up and face real responsibility. That emotional flatness is the price of being stable and reliable. But it's not maturity. It's a protective mechanism that was only supposed to be temporary. And the longer it stays active, the harder it becomes to remember what it felt like to be genuinely present in your own life. If you're experiencing this, there's something you need to understand. This doesn't happen to people who quit easily. It happens to the ones who keep going, the ones who've built their entire identity around being dependable, resilient, capable, the ones who don't complain, don't break down, don't let things fall apart, even when everything inside them is begging for a pause. You've probably spent years being the person others rely on. The one who handles pressure well, the one who doesn't create drama or need excessive support, and somewhere along the way, you internalized a dangerous belief that stopping means failing, that needing a break means you're not strong enough, that if you just push through, you'll eventually get to the other side. So you pushed, through stress that should have been a warning, through exhaustion that should have forced rest, through emotional strain that should have made you reevaluate everything. And your mind watched you ignore every signal it sent, every subtle indication that you needed to slow down, you overrode. Every moment of discomfort, you rationalized. Every feeling that tried to surface, you managed. And eventually, your system stopped asking. It realized you weren't going to listen, so it made an executive decision. If you won't stop, I'll stop you from feeling the cost of not stopping. I'll mute the signals so you can keep performing without falling apart. That's not weakness. That's your mind trying to keep you alive under conditions you refuse to change. The problem is that the solution was never meant to be permanent. It was supposed to buy you time to address what was actually wrong. Instead, you kept going, assuming the numbness meant you were handling things. You weren't handling things, you were surviving them. And there's a massive difference between the two that you're only now starting to see. Here's where it gets tricky. The thing keeping you stuck isn't the shutdown itself. It's what you do when you notice something's wrong. You feel the flatness, the distance, the weird emptiness where feelings used to be, and your immediate instinct is to fix it the only way you know how, by doing more, working harder, optimizing better, pushing yourself to snap out of it through sheer effort and discipline, and that's the trap. Because the shutdown happened specifically because you were already doing too much without processing any of it. Your mind pulled back to protect you from the relentless pace you were maintaining. So when you respond to that pullback by increasing pressure on yourself, you're not solving the problem. You're confirming to your system that it was right to shut down in the first place. The loop looks like this: constant demand on your system, no space to actually feel what's happening. Your mind adapts by reducing emotional sensitivity. You continue operating, now with even less internal feedback. Months pass, you notice something's off. Instead of slowing down, you try to compensate by being more productive, more disciplined, more controlled. And your system interprets that as still not safe to come back online, still too much pressure, still no room for me to actually feel things without it becoming overwhelming. So it stays muted, the shutdown deepens, and you keep spinning in a cycle where the solution you're reaching for is the exact thing making it worse. Most people live in this loop for years without realizing it. They think they're fixing themselves when they're actually reinforcing the conditions that caused the problem. They're trying to think their way out of something that requires them to stop thinking so hard and start listening to what their system's been trying to say. You can't force your way back to feeling. That's not how this works. You've tried resting, you've tried organizing your life better, you've tried motivating yourself with goals and routines and all the strategies that are supposed to make you feel like yourself again, and none of it worked. Not because you did it wrong, because you were aiming at the wrong target entirely. Rest fixes fatigue, it doesn't fix disconnection. You can sleep 10 hours and wake up still feeling that same emotional distance, because your body being rested has nothing to do with your mind being present. Physical recovery and psychological reconnection are completely different processes, and confusing one for the other is why so many people stay stuck. Productivity gives you a sense of control. It makes you feel like you're handling things. But here's the problem. You were already handling things when the shutdown happened. You were performing, delivering, keeping everything on track. The issue wasn't that you weren't productive enough, it was that you were so focused on output that you stopped checking in with the part of you that actually experiences life. Optimizing your schedule doesn't restore that, it just makes you more efficient at being disconnected. And motivation? That's just another way of pushing. It's the voice that says, come on, you can do this, just try harder. But you don't need to try harder. You've been trying hard this entire time. What you need is to stop equating effort with healing and start recognizing that your system doesn't need more input. It needs permission to come back online without immediately being flooded with demands. The fix isn't external. It's not a technique or a hack or a new habit you can install. It's an internal recalibration that requires you to stop doing what feels productive and start doing what actually allows your mind to trust that it's safe to feel again. And that's uncomfortable because it means letting go of the very thing you've been using to cope. Constant forward motion. When your mind starts coming back online, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like everything suddenly got harder. You start noticing things that didn't bother you before. Small frustrations land heavier. Conversations feel more draining. Things that you were handling just fine last week now feel overwhelming. And your first thought is probably, I'm getting worse. I'm going backward. Something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. You're not regressing. You're waking up. And waking up means feeling things again, including all the stuff you've been successfully ignoring for months. When you're in shutdown, emotional numbness feels like stability. You're calm because nothing's reaching you. You're unbothered because you're not actually processing what's happening. It's easy to mistake that flatness for strength, for being okay, for having things under control. But the second your system starts to restore sensitivity, that illusion cracks. Suddenly, you're aware of how much you've been carrying, how tired you actually are, how much tension you've been holding without realizing it. And it's disorienting. Because for the first time in a long time, you're actually present for your own life, not performing it, not managing it from a distance, actually in it. And being in it means feeling the weight of it. This is the moment most people panic and try to shut back down. They interpret the return of feeling as a sign that something's breaking, so they double down on control. They try to numb out again, convince themselves they were fine before, go back to the strategies that kept them functional but distant. But here's what you need to understand. Feeling worse is not the same as being worse. It's your mind testing whether it's actually safe to be honest with you now, whether you'll finally listen instead of override, whether you're ready to stop pretending everything's manageable and start dealing with what's real. The shift isn't about doing more. It's about stopping the constant override. You've spent so long pushing past what you feel, rationalizing discomfort, convincing yourself that if you just keep moving, everything will sort itself out. And your system learned that your internal signals don't matter, that what you feel isn't as important as what you produce, that the goal is to keep functioning no matter what it costs internally. So the adjustment isn't another strategy. It's not a morning routine or a productivity system or some new framework for managing your life better. It's simpler and harder than that. It's learning to actually listen when something inside you says, stop. Not dramatically, not by blowing up your life or making radical changes you're not ready for, just by creating small pockets of space where you're not optimizing, not performing, not trying to fix or improve anything. Moments where you let yourself exist without a goal attached to it. That might mean sitting with discomfort instead of immediately distracting yourself from it. It might mean saying no to something even though you technically have the capacity to do it. It might mean letting a task sit unfinished because finishing it right now would require you to ignore a signal your body's sending. This feels wildly inefficient at first because you've been trained to believe that downtime without purpose is wasted time, that rest is only justified if you've earned it through productivity, that listening to yourself is something you do after everything else is handled, but your mind doesn't come back online in the margins. It comes back when you prove that its signals actually matter, that you're not going to keep treating it like an obstacle to manage while you chase the next thing, that you're finally willing to prioritize being present over being impressive. Less force, more honesty. That's the recalibration. And it's not glamorous, but it works. You're not trying to recover the old version of yourself. That version is what led you here. The person you were before the shutdown was capable, resilient, high-functioning. They handled pressure well. They kept going when things got hard. They built a life that looked successful from every angle. And they did it by ignoring every signal that said slow down, by treating rest as optional, by believing that pushing through was always the answer. That worked until it didn't. And now you're facing a choice that most people don't want to acknowledge. You can't go back to operating the way you did and expect a different result. The old normal caused this. The old pace, the old standards, the old way of measuring whether you were doing enough. All of it trained your system to shut down because surviving that life required it. So the goal isn't to recover who you were. It's to build a version of yourself that doesn't require shutdown to stay functional. Someone who can feel things without being overwhelmed by them. Someone who can handle pressure without disconnecting from their own experience. Someone who knows the difference between productive effort and just grinding yourself down. That means letting go of some things you thought defined you. The idea that you should always be able to handle more. The belief that needing space or boundaries means you're not strong enough. The notion that being okay means never struggling, never hesitating, never admitting that something's too much. You're not broken. You never were. But you can't keep pretending that going back to how things were is the win. The win is building something better. A life where your mind doesn't have to choose between feeling and functioning, where being present doesn't come at the cost of performance, where you're not just surviving your own existence. That's what's on the other side of this, not the old you, a version that's actually sustainable. You didn't fail, you didn't break, you didn't become weaker or less capable or somehow defective. You just spent too long solving for the wrong thing. You thought you needed rest, when what you actually needed was reconnection. You thought you needed discipline when what you needed was permission to feel again. You thought pushing harder would eventually get you back to normal when pushing harder was the exact mechanism keeping you numb. This wasn't burnout. It was your mind making an impossible choice: keep you functional or keep you present. And it chose function because you gave it no other option. But now you know, shutdown isn't failure. It's adaptation. And the fact that you're still here, still trying to understand what's happening, means you haven't lost yourself. You've just been operating from a distance for longer than you realized. The way forward isn't about forcing yourself back. It's about proving to your system that it's safe to come home, that you'll finally listen when it speaks, that being alive matters more than just being productive. If this landed differently than you expected, hit subscribe. There's more here worth understanding. And if you recognized yourself somewhere in this, drop a comment. Sometimes just naming it out loud to someone else makes it real, in a way thinking about it never does. Share this with someone who needs the language for what they've been feeling. You're not going backward, you're waking up. And that's exactly where this starts.